Clash Royale has 8 unique champions. In this video, I'm going to explain each one of them. Let's start with the Skeleton King. Skeleton King is a 4-elixir champion that can be unlocked after reaching Arena 16. Skeleton King is a melee ground troop with high hit points and medium damage. He does basically the same amount of damage as the Knight, which means he will one-shot spear goblins and regular goblins, but won't one-shot cards like archers and wall breakers. Skeleton King has the most hit points out of all the 4-elixir cards, except Rune Giant, but no one uses that card anyway. This means he can tank a whole rocket and even a sparky shot without dying. With his high hit points and medium damage, he does a decent job against other ground tanks like the Valkyrie and the Knight. Definitely not the best counter, but he gets the job done. Skeleton King's attacks also do a little bit of splash damage. This means he can easily take care of some ground swarm cards, like the Goblin Gang and the Skeleton Army. Barbarians are going to cause him some trouble, but he still does a decent job against them. Skeleton King has medium movement speed and medium range, just like the Valkyrie and the Knight does. Let's talk about his ability. Skeleton King has a 2-elixir ability that spawns skeletons around him similarly to the graveyard. The ability will spawn a minimum of 6 skeletons and a maximum of 16 skeletons. It all depends how many souls the Skeleton King collected before using the ability. The Skeleton King collects souls from every troop that dies while the Skeleton King is on the board. Doesn't matter if they are your troops or enemy troops. This bar above the Skeleton King will indicate how many souls he has collected. If you use the ability without collecting any souls, the ability will spawn 6 skeletons. Each collected soul increases the amount of skeletons spawned by 1. As you can see here, 0 souls will spawn 6 skeletons, and 10 souls will spawn 16 skeletons. This means that with 10 souls collected, you can get a better graveyard for only 2 elixir. To easily collect souls, you should use swarm cards, like the Goblin Gang, the Skeleton Army, or the Skeleton Barrel. Just make sure you have the Skeleton King on the board before they die. With cards that have multiple phases, like Golem, Elixir Golem, and Lava Hound, only the last phase counts as souls. This means that even though the Elixir Golem has 7 troops dying, only the last 4 blobs count as souls. Clone troops also do not count as souls, which is interesting because the skeletons spawned from the Skeleton King ability are actually cloned skeletons. The ability has a 20-second cooldown, but if you do get a second ability, you need to collect the souls again. Otherwise, it will spawn only 6 skeletons. The ability will continue spawning skeletons even if the Skeleton King is not alive anymore. This means you can use the ability even when the Skeleton King is very low on hit points. There are also some weird interactions with the Skeleton King. Because of the Skeleton King's large hitbox, he can sometimes push cards like Hog Rider away from buildings, so they go straight to the enemy tower. We can talk more about these interactions in another video. Now it's time for the second champion. Boss Bandit. This card is a bandit on steroids. Boss Bandit is the newest and the most expensive champion in the game. It costs 6 elixir and can be unlocked after reaching Arena 17. Boss Bandit is a fast-moving ground troop with a short melee range and a 1.2-second hit speed. She also has a lot of hit points, almost as much as the Royal Giant. She does basically the same amount of damage as the Valkyrie, so she can easily one-shot all the spirits and also the goblins. With her high hit points and damage, she can take care of some bigger units too, like the Giant Skeleton and the Mega Knight. What really makes this card good is the fact that it can dash, similarly to the Bandit. The boss Bandit can dash to targets that are 3.5 to 6 tiles away from her. This means that enemies in this range will get absolutely destroyed by her dash. The dash does over 500 damage at only level 11. That is 38% more than the regular Bandit's dash. Her dash is able to one-shot cards like the Magic Archer and the Mother Witch. Those are 4 elixir cards we are talking about. But it doesn't stop there. Combined with her ability, her dash becomes absolutely broken. The boss Bandit has a 1 elixir ability that makes her invisible for 1 second and teleports her back 6 tiles. When you combine this with a regular dash, she can do a double dash to a target without taking a single damage. So she can fully counter cards like the Hunter and the Electro Wizard without taking any damage. Are you starting to see why this card is broken? Just wait. We aren't done yet. Unlike other champions, the boss Bandit's ability doesn't have a cooldown. It can be used once when she has over 50% of her hit points, and again when her hit points drop below 50%. Which means that no matter what happens, you are always able to use the ability 2 times. Once her hit points drop below this line, you can use the ability again. This card can deal almost 2,000 damage to your tower with basically 1 hit point, so you better watch out for her. Similarly to the Bandit, she doesn't take any damage while dashing. So with the right timing, she can dodge a Sparky Shot and fully counter it without taking damage. The dash can also avoid Prince and Dark Prince charges, as well as the regular Bandit dash. There are so many possibilities with the dash plus ability combo. But now it's time for another champion. Monk. The Monk is a 5 elixir ground melee champion that can be unlocked after reaching Arena 18. At first it might look like the Monk has a very low damage output, with his damage being only little bit higher than a Goblin's damage. But don't let him fool you. With every 3rd hit, he does over 3 times the amount of damage a normal hit does. He also has a fast hit speed, only 0.8 seconds, meaning he can do massive amounts of damage very quickly. Not only does his every 3rd hit do 3 times the damage, it also knockbacks ground troops away from him. This is very useful when defending against slow tanks like the Golem or the Giant. Monk will continuously knock back them, making you take almost 0 damage. It can even push a Giant Skeleton off your tower. Not only does he do a lot of damage, he also has a lot of hit points. Just a bit less than the Skeleton King. Monk can basically 1v1 every 5, 4, and 3 elixir ground tanks. For example, he can easily 1v1 the Valkyrie and the Knight. Monk definitely isn't the best counter to swarm cards, but it can still do a decent job against cards like the Goblin Gang and the Guards. Similarly to the Skeleton King, Monk also has medium movement speed and medium range. Let's talk about his ability. Monk has a 1 elixir ability that makes the Monk stop and activates 80% damage reduction for 4 seconds. During this, he will also reflect back any projectiles that hit him. Any ranged troop projectiles, like a musketeer shot, will be reflected back to the musketeer. This makes some ranged cards absolutely useless against him, because Monk just reflects all the damage back to them. The ability will also reflect all the tower projectiles back to the tower. Spells can also be reflected, and they will be reflected back to the nearest enemy tower. He can reflect a 6 elixir rocket back to the enemy tower. But not all spells can be reflected by the ability. For example, Poison, Zap, and Royal Delivery won't be affected by Monk's ability. Monk can also reflect projectiles back to air troops. For example, the flying machine and minions get fully countered by the Monk ability. During the ability, Monk is also invincible to all knockbacks. He can't be pulled by cards like Tornado or the Fisherman. What is weird about his ability is that it can reflect projectiles even if they are not aimed at the Monk. Here is an example. The Monk is somehow reflecting the cannon, even though the cannon is shooting at the Royal Giant. He can also reflect the Royal Giant shots, if you place him between your tower and the Royal Giant. It is important to know that all projectiles, except spells, deal only 25% damage to crown towers. Otherwise, it would be too broken if your tower took the full 1300 damage from a sparky shot. There are some really cheesy interactions with the ability. If there is two monks reflecting between each other, the projectile will just completely disappear. The ability can also reflect back a chef tower upgrade, which will land on the enemy king tower, making it one level higher. Let me know in the comments section if you want to learn more about these interactions. Goblinstein. Goblinstein is a 5-elixir champion that can be unlocked after reaching Arena 18. Unlike other champions, Goblinstein spawns 2 troops when deployed: the Monster and the Doctor. The Monster is a medium-speed ground tank with similar hit points as the Skeleton King and the Monk. The Monster only targets towers and buildings, which means it will ignore any troops and walk straight to your tower. The Monster isn't really a damage dealer, with its damage being only a bit over 100, and it also has a slow hit speed. The Monster's main purpose is to protect the Doctor from any damage, and it also is an important part of the ability. The Doctor is a low damage range troop with not a lot of hit points. He has the same amount of hit points as the Musketeer, which means it won't get one-shotted by Fireball, but will die to other heavy spells like Poison, Lightning, and Rocket. The Doctor does only 92 damage, which is less than one Archer. He also has a very slow hit speed, which means he doesn't deal almost any damage. He can hit both air and ground troops, and he also stuns the target for 0.5 seconds with every hit. This means it can constantly reset cards like Inferno Dragon and Sparky, making them absolutely useless. Except that he still doesn't win the 1 versus 1 against an Inferno Dragon because of his low damage. The Doctor will always spawn behind the Monster unless you place it in the middle, so they split to both lanes. So why would anyone use this card if it does barely anything? Let's talk about his ability. The Goblinstein has a 2-elixir ability with a 17-second cooldown. The ability will start an electric link between the Doctor and the Monster, which deals lots of damage to enemies within 2 tiles. The ability will last for 4 seconds, and it does so much damage it can fully counter the Barbarians. The ability can hit both air and ground troops, and it also does decent damage to the enemy towers. The ability can be used even if the Monster is not alive anymore, because when it dies, it drops an antenna that can be used to create an electric link between it and the Doctor. As you probably realized, you need to get work done with the ability if you want to get value with this card. Let's talk about a completely different champion, the Mighty Miner. Mighty Miner is a 4-elixir champion that can be unlocked after reaching Arena 17. Mighty Miner is a medium-speed ground melee troop, but unlike other melee troops, his weapon damage increases over time, similarly to the Inferno Dragon. His damage starts at 40 and can ramp up all the way to 400. With his 0.4 second hit speed, it means he can deal over 1,000 damage in 1 second. That's a whole Mega Knight gone in just 4 seconds. Not only can he do massive damage, he also has a lot of hit points, just between the monk and the Skeleton King. Similarly to the Inferno Dragon, Mighty Miner's damage increase can be stopped with a stun, like a zap, or an Electro Wizard. Any knockback, like a log, will also reset his damage back to 40. As a single target troop, one of his big weaknesses is swarm troops. All you need is a couple skeletons, and the Mighty Miner is basically useless. But that's why he has an ability. Mighty Miner has a 1 elixir ability with a 13-second cooldown. It drops a bomb to the Mighty Miner's location and sends the Mighty Miner to the opposite lane. The bomb can hit both air and ground troops, and it will one-shot cards, like the minions and the goblins. It will also knock back troops. Just make sure you don't push them to your own tower. The ability will send the Mighty Miner to the same spot he was in, but on the opposite lane. If you use it in front of the enemy tower, it will spawn in front of the other enemy tower. If you use it behind your tower, it will spawn behind your other tower. If you use it in the middle of the arena, the Mighty Miner won't really move much. You can use this to your advantage, and for example, fully counter the elite barbarians with just the Mighty Miner. With the ability, you can also send the Mighty Miner straight to the enemy tower once the other crown tower is destroyed. This can be very hard to stop if you don't have the right cards in hand. Archer Queen. Archer Queen is a 5 elixir champion that can be unlocked after reaching Arena 17. Archer Queen is a medium speed range troop that can target both air and ground troops. Her crossbow does a solid 225 damage with a 1.2 second hit speed and a 5-tile range. She can one-shot goblins and can easily take care of some medium health troops like the baby dragon. She is a medium health troop herself, with 1,000 hit points at level 11. This means she can survive a fireball and a poison, but will die to lightning and rocket.
But I'm the queen!
Archer Queen has a 1 elixir ability that makes her invisible and increases her attack speed a lot. The ability lasts for 3.5 seconds and has a 17-second cooldown. She can do massive amounts of damage with her ability while taking 0 damage herself because of the invisibility. She can easily counter cards like the baby dragon and the electro dragon without taking any damage. With decent timing, she can also fully counter a Sparky without taking damage. If you let her connect to your tower with the ability, you can say goodbye to that tower. Even a low HP Archer Queen is a huge threat, especially when she has an ability. Archer Queen in the pocket can also be very deadly. If you don't react quickly, she will start destroying your tower. While the Archer Queen is invisible, she can still take damage from spells and splash cards like the Bowler. At least she is not like the boss Bandit that cannot even be damaged. Golden Knight. Golden Knight is a 4 elixir champion that can be unlocked after reaching Arena 16. Golden Knight is a ground melee troop with high hit points and medium damage. At level 11, he has 1,800 hit points, which is just between the Knight and the Valkyrie. He does 161 damage per hit and has a 0.9 second hit speed. He's not able to one-shot goblins like the regular Knight. He can counter the Knight on his own, but he doesn't have enough hit points and damage to counter the Valkyrie on his own. But with the help of a tower, he can fully counter the Mega Knight. Golden Knight also has medium movement speed and medium range, like most of the champions. Golden Knight has a 1 elixir ability with only an 8-second cooldown. His ability is a dash. But unlike Bandit's and Boss Bandit's dash, his dash can hit multiple enemies. He can dash up to 10 targets with just 1 ability. He also doesn't need to be far away from the enemies in order to dash. He can be very close to them and still be able to dash. Because he is able to dash to multiple enemies, his dash does less damage than a regular bandit dash. His dash is still able to one-shot swarm cards like the goblins and the skeletons. Similarly to the bandit, he cannot be damaged while he is dashing, so he can be dashing towards your tower, and there's nothing you can do about it. He cannot dash to the same target twice with the same ability. His dash will also stop if it hits a crown tower, even if there are more targets nearby. His dash will counter the regular bandit dash, as well as the prince and dark prince charges. If there are no enemies nearby when you press the ability, the Golden Knight will get a massive movement speed increase until it finds a target to dash to. During this, the Golden Knight can be damaged, but the dash cannot be stopped with a stun or a knockback. Because of the fast 8-second cooldown, you can often get 2 abilities with the Golden Knight. There are a lot of ways to utilize the Golden Knight ability, but I will leave those for another video. Little Prince. Little Prince is the cheapest champion in the game, by costing only 3 elixir. He can be unlocked after reaching Arena 18. Little Prince is a low-damage ranged troop that can hit both air and ground targets. He has almost 700 hit points, which means that Fireball will leave him one shot, but heavier spells like Poison, Lightning, and Rocket will fully counter it. He has a 5.5 tile range and he does 99 damage per shot. What makes him special is the fact that his attack speed increases as he shoots. When he stays still shooting a target, his hit speed will slowly go from 1.2 seconds all the way to 0.4 seconds. But once he starts moving, his hit speed will drop back to 1.2, which means he has to charge it back every time he moves. His hit speed increase also gets reset by any stuns or knockbacks, like the zap or the log. He has medium movement speed just like most of the champions. While being the cheapest champion in the game, he has the most expensive ability out of all the champions. He has a 3 elixir ability with a 30-second cooldown. His ability spawns a Guardian that charges to the arena, dealing damage and knockbacking any ground troops nearby. The charge damage just got buffed from 207 damage to 230 damage. The charge one-shots goblins and does decent damage to other troops. The Guardian has over 2 times the amount of hit points the Little Prince has, a bit less than the Knight does. He deals exactly the same amount of damage as the Knight, so he can one-shot goblins. The Guardian isn't really good. It mainly just protects the Little Prince, allowing it to deal more damage. There are some weird interactions with this ability as well. Let me know if you want another video about those.